As dividend investors, a lot of us are interested into investing into different dividend paying stocks and ETFs that pay dividends consistently, but also have the potential to increase in share price over time. But what about for those dividend investors like myself that are looking for a little bit more cash flow from day one and that are actively trying to raise their dividend income as fast as possible? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about a handful of different dividend paying stocks and ETFs, some of my favorite, most high quality, favored higher yielding, income generating assets that can raise your dividend income a lot more, a lot faster than other more common dividend paying stocks and ETFs that you might be familiar with. So if you consider yourself a dividend investor that loves cash flow, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into the first one. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the markets. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So the first dividend paying ETF that has the potential to pay a lot of dividend income to an investor from day one, and what happens to be one of my favorite personal holdings, is SVOL, or the Simplified Volatility Premium ETF. Now, SVOL is basically flat over the last year, but this ETF has an almost 16% trailing 12-month dividend. Yes, this ETF has a pretty pricey expense ratio, but once I show you the performance over time, I don't think you're really going to mind. Now, the fact that SVOL pays more or less 30 cents every single month, or at least has for the last year or so, and the fact that this ETF is only around $22 to $23 per share. Even though this ETF, at least over the last year or so, has traded mostly flat, investors have seen a return of around 15% if you look at total return. So if you're a dividend-focused investor that's looking for some cash flow, definitely check out SVOL. It's one of my favorites across the markets. And speaking of favorite dividend-generating ETFs, this has to be one of my favorites of all time. I'm talking about SPYI, or the NEOS S&P 500 High Income ETF. Now, this ETF is not only up year to date, up almost 6% as far as ETF price return, but also trailing 12-month, this ETF has paid almost 12% to investors like myself. Now, SPYI is trading at nearly $51 per share, so it is near the higher end of where we've seen it over the last year, but still with a 51, 50 cent, 49 cent monthly dividend that has been paid very consistently over the last year, this ETF is going to give you a massive, massive amount of cash flow. And every single time I personally buy a share of SPYI, add another share into my portfolio, I think to myself, I'm basically, somewhat of course, guaranteed a 50-cent dividend payout later that month, which is amazing and super, super motivating. So if you're looking for a covered call style ETF, which has a bulletproof strategy in my opinion, and has some nice historical data to go off of, SPYI is one of my favorites. Now, it's not just ETFs, there's also a handful of stocks that offer a massive dividend from day one, and a safe dividend at that. One of my favorites of all time has to be Main Street Capital, or ticker symbol MAIN. Now, Main Street Capital doesn't even necessarily fit in with what we're looking for in this video, because this single stock just keeps growing and growing and growing, and I promised you to give you a handful of different dividend paying stocks and ETFs that are going to pay you a lot of cash flow, but not necessarily even grow all that fast. Main is up over 20% year to date, like we said, over 33% over last year. And on top of that, even with where Main is trading as high as it is, Main Street Capital is still offering a forward dividend of around 5.65% with special dividends on top of that. Now, Main Street Capital has a massive history of not only paying dividends, but also paying special dividends. This single stock is a great example of a cash flow machine, and I'm very happy that I've been buying Main Street Capital over the last few years. Another single stock that I've been buying like crazy over the last year and beyond is EPD, or Enterprise Product Partners, one of my favorite higher yielders from day one. Now, EPD is actually up substantially over the last year, especially for a stock that historically trades mostly sideways more or less. EPD is up almost 11% year to date. Even with that, EPD still is offering over a 7% forward dividend yield, which is much higher than most other stocks or ETFs across the markets. And on top of that, EPD not only has a history of paying dividends on time every single quarter, but as you can see from the chart, EPD has paid more and more in dividends historically. So if you're looking for cash flow, if you're a cash flow hungry dividend investor, check out EPD. You definitely are not going to want to miss this one. We of course can't make a video and talk about cash flow and higher yielding, high-end assets without including JEPQ, the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF. This is one of my favorite covered call style ETFs across the entire market, probably up near the top with SPYI. Now, it's no secret that JEPQ has been growing and growing and growing over the last year, up 17% on the 1 year time frame and up over 12% year to date. But on top of that, JEPQ pays a massive dividend, almost 9%, with certain months paying more, certain months paying less, depending on volatility. But for those investors that want monthly income and want it consistently, JEPQ is one of my favorites across the entire market. One of my newer favorites that I haven't been buying much of as of recently, but I do plan on grabbing some more very soon, is QQQI, another NEOS ETF, the NEO Nasdaq 100 High Income ETF. Now this ETF is similar to that of SPYI, but instead of tracking the S&P 500, this one tracks the Nasdaq. The ETF is not only up over 5.4% year to date, but on top of that, this ETF is yielding almost 12%, paying massive dividends to investors like you and I. Like I said, out of the bunch, maybe not my favorite, but for some higher yield, higher income, for more cash flow from day one, definitely check out QQQI. So those are just a few of my favorite cash flowing, higher yielding, different stocks and ETFs that I would consider some of the highest quality across the market if of course you're looking for cash flow from day one. Now out of every single stock and or ETF that we talked about in this video, I want to hear from you guys down below. Which is your absolute favorite, either stock or ETF that you're currently buying? If any that we talked about in today's video, let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like in it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.